Blame Eve, the heavy favorite to the outside. In the gate. And they're off. Not the best of starts for Blame Eve. It's a quick one for Celestial Skies, along with Watershed Moment. McKenna Rita in between them. Vronaway is now sprinting through along the inside and trying to get to that front as they move into the clubhouse turn. They're followed by Aguila Azul and Blame Eve right together. Ghostess at the back of the field. 6 furlongs to run, and it's Vronaway and Watershed Moment dueling on the front end. 2 back Celestial Skies in third. Then McKenna Rita fourth. 2 more back to Blame Eve, who races by herself now and 5 lengths off the pace. Aguila Azul and Ghostess is just outside of her. Vronaway to the half-mile pole, leading by a neck, prompted by Watershed Moment alongside. McKenna Rita is down at the rail in third. Then Celestial Skies, Blame Eve inching forward in between horses. Another 2, Ghostess out of last. Aguila Azul is now the trailer. It's Vronaway who's been there most of the journey. Watershed Moment head and head with her. McKenna Rita coming under pressure. Blame Eve is fourth, still with 3 lengths to make up. Down at the rail comes Ghostess making some headway around the far turn, where McKenna Rita has made her move to the lead. She goes on with it at the top of the stretch, leading a half length to Watershed Moment, and suddenly it's 2 lengths. Then comes Blame Eve struggling in third. They're coming to the 16th pole, and it's McKenna Rita clear by 3. Watershed Moment is second. Blame Eve third. McKenna Rita is well clear, and it will be McKenna Rita to win it by 3 lengths. Watershed Moment was second. Blame Eve third. Celestial Skies ran fourth. Pergamy goes up. They're in the gate. And they're off in the China Doll. Hypergamy broke sharply inward, but is able to go straight to the front. Yours sincerely and Counterbalance. Counterbalance takes second. And Hamika, the favorite, is at the back of the field. So it is Hypergamy who will set the tempo, tracked by Counterbalance, with Yours Sincerely hugging the rail in third. And Hamika is fourth, but just 3 lengths covers the entire field. They move on to the backstretch behind Hypergamy, 2.5 length advantage. Counterbalances second. Down on the inside, it's Yours Sincerely and Hamika. Heading toward the half-mile pole. Hypergamy is loose on the front end. She has it now by 3 lengths. Counterbalance has been second the whole way, and Yours Sincerely inside of her. Another 2. Hamika is still at the back as they move to the far turn. Hypergamy has been left alone throughout. Counterbalance, Yours Sincerely at the rail, gets a little nudge now as Hamika starts to inch up outside of them, taking third and on the move. 1/4 mile to go. Hypergamy in front. Hamika on the outside, and Counterbalance in between them. Yours Sincerely is last, top of the stretch, and Hypergamy is digging in. Here's Counterbalance running a huge race in between. Very confidently handled too is Counterbalance, who has opened up in the late stages. Counterbalance scores nicely in the China Doll. Hypergamy was second, Hamika third, then Yours Sincerely. And they're off. Susan Yvonne, another 0 is a little bit quicker. Here's Lindy's Dream with sharp early foot 2. Krista McAuliffe on the far outside is just 3.5 off them. They are followed by Caffey, Surprise Doro at the rail, La Silenciosa outside of them, and Little Originaire is at the back of the field. And it is the heavy favorite, another 0 in control down the backstretch, with Lindy's Dream in second, Krista McAuliffe on the outside, and Suzanne Yvonne at the rail. 3 more lengths, La Silenciosa on the outside of Surprise Doro. Then it is a big gap to the 2 trailers, Little Originaire and Caffey. They're coming to the quarter pole, another 0. Lindy's Dream joined by Krista McAuliffe on the outside. Then Susan Yvonne and La Silenciosa, top of the stretch. And another 0 is set down now and opens up a 3-length lead. Krista McAuliffe takes up the chase clearly into second. They're followed by La Silenciosa outside Lindy's Dream. A 16th to go and another 0 humbled them. Another 0 strolls by more than 5. Krista McAuliffe, La Silenciosa, and Lindy's Dream. And they're off. Encanto and Rearmed John. Rearmed John goes to the front. Unbridled Vision comes through on the inside with some early interest. Smart Code fourth. Van Cougar is fifth, 5 lengths off the lead. 3 clear of Gregory's Pride and Spearfish, who are together at the back of the field. It's Ricky Gonzalez and Rearmed John showing the way a length and a half. Unbridled Vision at the rail. Encanto in third. Smart Code on hold behind that pair. And on the outside of them comes Van Cougar. There goes Spearfish for an early bid. And Spearfish is passing horses one by one, moving after Rearmed John into the far turn. Encanto is currently second. Van Cougar is trying to get into it. He has to await a little bit of a spot to get into as Spearfish's brief bid has come to a halt. And in behind them, Gregory's Pride. Traffic issues galore as they turn for home. Rearmed John, Encanto, far outside. Van Cougar is getting into it too. They're in the final furlong. Encanto takes the lead. Rearmed John trying to fight with him. These two headed head. Rearmed John comes back on the inside of Encanto. It's going to be close. Encanto, Rearmed John. Encanto, Rearmed John. Photo finish. That is just a matter of which nose was down. Very, very close. Rearmed John or Encanto, they hit the wire together. Third went to Van Cougar. We're in the gate. And they're off. No more ding-dongs, Typhoon Tabi. Novena Phobia is up close in the early going, as is Tiger Strength, who's fourth. Now here's Scatify, who wasn't quick out of the gate, but has room on the inside to come and challenge the pacemakers. Behind them, Gray Power, inside Magic Connection, a gap of a half dozen or so, back to Aloha Chrome, who is toward the back of the field and now some 12 lengths or so off the lead into the far turn. Can You Hear Me Knocking now gets the better of him, and it's another 3 back to Pat Can't Count. No more ding-dongs is the one to beat, moving on the far turn. Leads at 3/4 of a length to Scatify in second. Magic Connection is moving right into contention. Scatify's in deep trouble now and backing out at the top of the stretch. No more ding-dongs in front. Confronted now by Magic Connection. Novena Phobia is coming through along the inside and with a chance too. No more ding-dongs trying to fight them all off. Magic Connection on the outside trying to get by. These two go on. No more ding-dongs, and Alfredo Bautista clinging to the lead. No more ding-dongs. Fends off a big bid from Magic Connection. Then it was Novena Phobia, and Aloha Chrome came from well out of it to take fourth. Ghazali, Cowboy Mike. And they're off. Oh, and losing the rider there was McVeigh. McVeigh lost the rider at the start. Voldemort and Cowboy Mike. Mike Smith is up on his feet and walking away. That's good news as they move into the first turn. It's Cowboy Mike who is up to take a narrow lead from Voldemort. Just in behind them, Berlin Wall is racing in third. And on the outside of him comes Ghazali, who's fourth and about 2.5 lengths or so off the lead. Magnify is next, and Big Bet Joffin Safa is at the back of the field. Down the back stretch, and it's Cowboy Mike taking a strong hold of with that loose horse about 15 or so lengths in front of him. Has the way by a length and a half to Ghazali in second, and Voldemort is coming under early pressure. Voldemort being worked upon, losing ground with every stride. Berlin Wall and Magnify have both gone by Voldemort, who's just not himself, and outside of him is Big Bet Joffin Safa. Around the far turn, stride for stride now. Cowboy Mike on the inside. Ghazali puts his neck in front. It's another 2 lengths behind them to Magnify in third. Down at the rail, Berlin Wall and Big Bet Joffin Safa. Ghazali means business. And Ghazali opens up 3 with 1 furlong to go. Cowboy Mike is trying to hold second. Between horses, Magnify and Berlin Wall. They're followed by Big Bet Joffin Safa. It is Ghazali clear, and Ghazali in a good-looking performance. Ghazali wins it by 3.5. Magnify was second. Big Bet Joffin Safa and Cowboy Mike. And they're off. Track Tiger gets the first call out of the gate and tries to sprint clear at once. Sammy Davis second. Lucky and Gone is third. And they're followed by One for Lou. Misael Jaramillo pushes the gas pedal down on Track Tiger, who spurts clear by 4 lengths. Sammy Davis and Hector Barrios clear cut second. One for Lou and Lucky and Gone. They race down the hill with Track Tiger in control, bounding along with Sammy Davis still 4 lengths behind in second. One for Lou, and then it's Lucky and Gone. They're coming to the quarter pole behind Track Tiger. 3-length lead. Sammy Davis traveling well, though. And Sammy Davis is cutting into the margin as they come to the quarter pole. Track Tiger and Sammy Davis. Track Tiger just in front. Sammy Davis called on to get by. Track Tiger holding by half a length. Sammy Davis in second. 4 back to One for Lou in third. And Track Tiger is still full of run mid-stretch. Track Tiger from Flag Fall to That's All. Too strong for Sammy Davis. One for Lou finished third. In the gate. And they're off in the Santa Isabel, and Super Corridora was just standing still and was a flat last. Forced entry. Here's French Blue coming through on the inside to set the pace. My Love Caroline on the outside. And Bank Shot is racing in fourth. It's a gap of 4. Back to Piney Woods, who's 6 or 7 off the lead. The 2 trailers, C. Drew. And the champion 2-year-old filly, Super Corridora, has her work cut out at the back of the field. Florent Giroux and French Blue onto the backstretch in control by 2 lengths. My Love Caroline is second. A neck back to Bank Shot third. Forced entry 4 off the pace in fourth. Now Piney Woods joined by Super Corridora, and C. Drew is inside of them. Heading to the half-mile pole. And it's French Blue in charge, leads it a length and a half still to My Love Caroline and Bank Shot. Juan Hernandez guides forced entry outside of that pair, 3.5 or so. Offer stablemate French Blue, who shakes loose now. French Blue, forced entry, moves into second. At the rail, it's Bank Shot. My Love Caroline is dropping out of it quickly. Down at the rail, C. Drew, Super Corridora, and also Piney Woods. A quarter of a mile to go. French Blue and forced entry. Forced entry on the outside, and French Blue head and head at the top of the stretch, and forced entries just in front. French Blue fighting hard. 3 lengths back to Bank Shot in third. They're coming to the 16th pole. It's forced entry. Bank Shot running a giant race on the outside of French Blue, but forced entry is too strong. Forced entry wins the Santa Isabel. Bank Shot was second. French Blue third. Piney Woods fourth. Completes the line. And they're off. Very even start. Lilo Lil and Tippy Tap are both out alertly. Bint Al Dandy now joins them. And Luby's Music is fourth in the opening furlong. Victoria's Dream between horses in fifth. They are followed by Vow to Resiliency. Surf Song is second to last. And the trailer is Sandy Street. Around the first turn, and it's Tippy Tap showing the way. Has it by half a length, prompted by Bint Al Dandy alongside second. They're followed by Luby's Music, a joint third. Lilo Lil, a little keen along the rail. And Victorious Dream is in between those two. 2 more back to Vow to Resiliency, who's a half length in front of Surf Song and 4 clear of Sandy Street. Continuing down the backstretch, and it is Tippy Tap on the inside and Bint Al Dandy. Those two continue to do battle up top. At the rail, Lilo Lil, Luby's Music on the outside, and Victoria's Dream continues between those two. Vow to Resiliency in the lime cap is next, followed by Surf Song, and Sandy Street starts to unwind from the back of the field. It's wide open with a quarter of a mile to go. Tippy Tap, Bint Al Dandy, stride for stride. These two have been going at it throughout. Here's Victorious Dream coming after them with 1 furlong to go. And even from the back of the field, Sandy Street is starting to fly home. Vow to Resiliency and Surf Song splitting rivals. Here's Surf Song coming through on the inside, and it will be Surf Song and Armando Ayuso to win the finale.
It's another big weekend of racing here at the Great Race Place. Hi, everybody. My name is Tom Quigley, VIP player concierge, also your seminar host for the next 39 minutes. And you might say, look, there's only 2 stakes races this weekend. What are you talking about? But have you paid attention? Horse players are making a lot of money. As an example, last Sunday, the winning Pick 6 players got paid $103,000 each. On Saturday, my favorite wager, the $1 Sunset 6, that went to one ticket holder. That was worth $205,000. And this weekend, as you might or might not know, big tournament, the National Handicapping Championship at the Horseshoe Hotel and Casino in Las Vegas, Nevada. 828 entrants. They're going to give away $3.3 million in prize money. The first place finisher is going to take home a check for $825,000. And you know it, the last race in the tournament will be right here at San Anita. Our seminar guest today, he's going to try and help us find some winners on today's card. He represents 2 jockeys, Kyle Frey and Tiago Pereira. His name, Jack Carava. Jack, happy Friday. Welcome to the seminar.
Hi, Tom.
Now, you're wearing the company colors. That would mean the LA Dodgers. I guess you're a big Dodger fan.
Yeah, I enjoy the Dodgers quite a bit. Like we were discussing, I just go to a few games a year, but I watch pretty much everyone. Very rarely do I miss a game, and they're going to have quite a team this year, it looks like.
To say the least. And, of course, you've been going for a long time. Maybe one or two of your favorite Dodger players all time. Does it go way back when to Steve Garvey and Ron Cey? Or
Yeah, probably that was Davey Lopes. And
Sure.
When I was in Little League, our team used to go to the stadium in those days. And but over the years, there's been so many great players over the years. And I've always been a fan. When I was playing, I was a catcher, so I always kind of had a soft spot for catchers. And
Steve Yeager,
yeah,
Mike Scioscia.
Yeah, the Dodgers have had a great deal of good ones.
Were any of your Little League teammates turn out to be horse players or involved in the horse industry?
No, not in particular, but a lot of guys I went to high school with did. I went to Arcadia.
Drop some names.
Yeah, Arcadia High. Well, just guys like that were mostly partnership with the Little Red Feather and stuff like that, and just got in where they owned a little piece here and there. But they enjoyed it, and I think it was back in the day when I went to high school, there was actually a course that Arcadia High had that was called racetrack management. It took up half your day, and I was in that class, 12 students. And
did you get a straight A?
We did okay in that one. Yeah, the rest of the classes not so much, but racetrack management I did okay.
How long have you been an agent for now, Jack?
5 years.
So you've been retired from training the last 5 years. You're a jockey agent. Do you miss the grind of training?
I do. I miss the horses, and I miss the camaraderie of having the employees I had. So many of my employees worked for me for 25, 30 years. So I miss those guys, but I still get to see them. They all have good jobs and in different spots. And I miss the day-to-day touching horses and checking legs every day. There's lots of parts of the business that I don't miss, and including the monthly bills and all that stuff. So that part of it's been pretty good. These condition books they give you, and these pens don't cost a whole lot of money, but horse food and everything else does.
The only one you got to be worried about getting paid is yourself, right?
Absolutely.
Jack, when you got into being a jockey agent, then you transformed from being a trainer into a jockey agent. Were there maybe 1 or 2 things now looking back in the rearview mirror the last 5 years that surprised you being a jockey agent? In other words, is it tougher than you thought? Is it easier than you thought? Are there a couple of things that maybe looking back caught you by surprise?
I think, being an agent, I had thought it over for a while before I did it. So I kind of knew what I was stepping into. The biggest thing about being a jocks agent these days is workers, to be quite honest with you, is keeping everybody happy with workers. Back in my kind of when I was training horses, I didn't use riders in the morning as much as people do today. And everybody, the way our schedule is now with racing on Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays, they typically want to work on Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays. So there's a ton of workers. And some of these mornings, I feel really bad giving my riders the amount of workers that I do. But at the same time, you have to get these horses worked, otherwise somebody else will, and they'll ride them. And so my poor guys, they have to hustle. And there's some mornings where they work 8 to 10 horses, and then come out and ride another 6 or 7 in the afternoon. But they're good sports, both of them, and they work real hard.
Let's talk about your 2 riders. Kyle Frey is an example. Let's first talk about Tiago Pereira. He's in Brazil. He's flying back home today, and the reason why he went down to his home country, his father celebrated his 80th birthday. His dad only turns 80 once. it's great that you were able to allow him to go down to South America and celebrate with the family.
Yeah, it was something he was really, even a few weeks ago, he had pointed out that it was something he really needed to do. He felt like he needed to do, and it was only going to miss just today's racing, and it worked out good. As we spoke about before, some of his better horses did not get in today. They were supposed to run,
right.
And a couple of them got in for tomorrow instead. So that part worked out great. And he's still going to miss a couple of horses that will probably run pretty well today. But at the same time, family comes first. And I think it was very important to his father and to himself as well.
Family first, as we all like to say. Now, Kyle Frey was in town and, of course, worked some horses this morning. He also has, I believe, 7 mounts on today's card. Give us an example of what your morning was like today. What time did you guys get to the track? How many did you work?
So I typically get to the track. I've never gotten over the whole trainer thing. I still want to get out here pretty early. And from where I live in Glendora, it takes a little bit of a drive and traffic gets bad fast. So I come out and I usually get here about 5 or 5:15. And Kyle lives a little closer than me, but not much. And he usually he'll start on some days at 5. But like today, his schedule was 6:30. That's when the first break is. And he had a worker at 6:30. And then he had one at the next break on the training track at 7:15. And then a third one at 7:45. So it was a pretty light day for him overall, and everything went well. So that's always good.
We have unusually warm temperatures this weekend in Southern California. How do horses react to temperatures like what we have this weekend?
I was talking to somebody about that earlier. Horses adapt real well during the summers when the temperatures go through spring and summer starts to get warm. They adapt pretty well. Now, when you just have these hot temperatures out of nowhere, and a lot of these horses have a little bit of a thicker, woollier coat than normal because of the wintertime and they haven't shed all the way out, it can be a little bit detrimental to everything. So certain horses handle heat better than others. There's certain horses that you kind of get to know them in your barn. They'll show a little signs when you run them of maybe getting a little dizzy after they run in the heat, and you just got to watch those type of horses for the next time you run them, and just kind of keep a note that if just make sure that they're very, very well hydrated, and just you just got to be careful. This time of year, it's a little tough when out of nowhere we have 90s after being multiple days of 60s.
Let's talk about where your jockeys are in the standings, Jack. First of all, Tiago is tied for 8th. He's had 146 mounts. You've certainly done your job keeping him active. There's only 8 riders in the entire room that have in excess of 100 mounts. Both he and Kyle do. More seconds than thirds. It's probably a little bit frustrating to everybody involved when you see, any rider with more seconds than thirds than actual wins.
Yeah, that bug has really bit Kyle more than Tiago this meet. Kyle's had 20. I think he's had 10 wins in 20 seconds or something like that.
10, 21, and 14.
Yeah, so it's not I think it's more a matter of the type of horses that they ride. If you look day in and day out, Kyle and Tiago, they are periodically they're on a 2-to-1 shot or an 8-to-5 shot, but typically they're riding the 6 to 8-to-1 shots. And I feel I kind of look at it in a different way. I'm pretty proud of them, the fact that so many of these horses have hit the board, and because I have not got them on what you would say premium mounts, so they're getting a lot of these 6 and 8-to-1 shots to run second and third. And if you look down, I stayed all day watching the races. A lot of their horses they'll pay $11-12 to place and stuff like that. So they're doing a good job of getting the most out of what I'm giving them.
We never run second and third whenever we have Jack Carava as our seminar guest. We're going to find out who Jack likes in all 9 races. But before we do any of that, let's toss the microphone over to track announcer Frank Miramati and get the early changes on a beautiful Friday here at Santa Anita.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Santa Anita Park, the great race place where the track is fast, the turf is firm, the rail on the turf out 30 feet. Here are the changes. The first, scratch number 3, Sketchy. We start the early pick 5 with race 1. In the second race, scratch number 5, Go Trigger Cut. Early pick 4 wagering is offered. The third, scratch the 2, Spun Not Stirred. Turning to race number 4, we start the $2 pick 6 with the 4th. In this race, scratch number 4, Olivia. There's also an all-turf pick 3 that starts here, races 4, 6, and 9. The 9 draws in, carries 1 pound overweight. Fifth race starts the late pick 5. Just blinker notes. Race 6, scratch the also eligible number 9. Lamborghini, pick 4 wagering offered. The 7th starts the $3 late pick 3. No changes. 8th race kicks off the late double, scratch number 1, Manchild. And in the 9th with super high 5 wagering, scratch 6, Passion-Doro. Scratch 10, Beeblebrox. Note that number 11 draws in. And the rider now will be Adrian Escobedo. These are the early changes on today's program. Special welcome to those that will be participating or are already participating in the National Handicapping Championship. The 8th race today is a mandatory race. We'll get more into that later on the day. Let's go back to Quigley's Corner. His special guest is former outstanding trainer Jack Carava, who currently serves as jockey agent for Kyle Frey and Tiago Pereira. 57 minutes to post for the opener. Enjoy your day at Santa Anita Park.
Welcome back. We're talking horse with Jack Carava. He represents both Kyle Frey and Tiago Pereira. It's our pleasure to have him as our seminar guest today. And Jack, before we take a look at today's 9-race card, you mentioned in the opening that you watch the races almost on a daily basis. I'm sure you watch a lot of replays as well. You might look at it differently as a jockey agent than we do as handicappers, but is there 1 or 2 things you could pass on to us, what you're looking for when you're watching a race, whether it's live or a replay, that maybe you're either looking for the way the horse is striding out, whether there's trouble, whether maybe the jockey does or doesn't fit? Like, what are things you're looking at when you're watching a race or watching a replay?
Well, I think it's, really, you guys as handicappers, you have a pretty good foothold on watching races as well. And all I'm looking for particularly was, so I typically watch races from home during the afternoon, and I have an little office set up there, and I watch replays in between races. I'll watch the replay of the previous race, the head on, stuff like that, looking for horses that had a little bit of trouble or a lot of trouble. And then, I'm obviously watching my own riders so we can kind of see what we're on. And but I typically, one of the underrated things I think is when horses are not so much in trouble, but just in the wrong spot. Where in a bunch in the
a 3-wide duel where the horse is in the middle.
Yeah, exactly. Uncomfortable. I look for uncomfortable trips because I think a jockey doesn't have to be standing up on them seesawing in trouble for them to have what I would call a bad trip. A lot of times a bad trip is, like you said, in between 2 dueling leaders. That's not a comfortable spot for horses, especially fillies, especially young horses. Rail trips. Typically, horses are most comfortable drawn outside, sitting in an open spot, not taking a lot of dirt is the perfect scenario. Now, if a horse fails under those conditions, I usually will say, it's kind of a mark against them. If a horse doesn't get it done with the perfect trip. So a lot of times I'm looking for that too. This horse ran 4th, but had absolutely no excuse, had an outside trip out of the dirt. and that horse is probably not going to move forward next time. Whereas the horse that was sitting in between or down on the inside with a tough trip, and again, not jockeys standing up seesawing on them and nothing obvious, just uncomfortable trips. And I look for those and try to get on some of those horses next time.
And Jack, we're blessed at firsttv.com to have access now to workouts in the morning. One thing we didn't have in the past, certainly you've been around a lot of animals in the morning as well. Do you put a lot of stock or faith into workouts? You talked about how you watch replays after the race and maybe even leading into a race. Do you spend a lot of time looking at workouts, particularly maybe for some of the runners that you have mounts on?
So I take workouts on a trainer-to-trainer basis. I think every trainer trains horses a different way, and workouts included. If you see a Bob Baffert that's working in 102s, that's an obvious knock against him. If you see Steve Miotti horses working 102, it's obviously they're pretty good horses. So everybody has their different styles. And so I take it with a grain of salt workouts as far as visually, it's a great thing. I love to visually watch horses, whether they're striding out, how much restraint they're under, all that stuff. But actual times and looking at on paper at times, you really have to take into consideration the barn that they're coming from because it makes a huge difference. A guy like Mark Glatt, I think, is a guy that it can come from any way. If he has a super good horse and they're working 58s and 59s, so be it. But he can also get a horse ready off a long layoff or with a lot of 101s and 102s. And that's just his thought. He lets the horse be the horse type of thing. And so sometimes people are forcing things a little bit, making horses work a little faster or restraining them a little more and working them a little slower. So it really depends on the barn. You got to know your trainers and know what their style is and what they're trying to accomplish.
Let's see if we can find some fast horses on today's card, Jack. Beginning in race number 1, where the turf rails are at 30 feet. Of course, we're fast and firm. We're traveling 1 mile and an eighth on the turf course. This is for $30,000 claimers, non-winners of 3 races lifetime. Scratch the 3. The current betting choice at 8-5 is the original morning line favorite at 8-5, number 4, Geometry. Also, race 1 begins the 50-cent early pick 5. You do not have a mount in this race, but you did the work. You took a look at the race. Who do you like and why?
Yeah, I had trouble getting past Geometry. He just, he's the type of company he has kept previous to today. This is just a huge drop in class for him. Not only is it, coming from stakes and a little bit higher claiming price of $50,000, but this is into a non-330. So it's a huge drop for him. While the drop is a tad suspicious with the kind of company he's kept and only getting beat 3 lengths, 3 lengths, 7 lengths against really, really top-notch horses. It's a little bit of a suspicious drop, but at the same time, Jonathan Thomas is very good at placing his horses in good spots, winning spots. And with Antonio Fresu aboard, I had trouble getting past him. So I think Geometry is definitely the horse to beat. Horse on the outside, Promisio, is a horse that Kyle has ridden in the past. The biggest knock on him is his form's good, but his biggest knock on him is he's coming off of a layoff of about 7-8 months. And so whether he needs a race to knock the rust off, but he's definitely talented enough to be right there, and he would be a viable second choice for me and a win candidate if he was to come back at his best.
Jack, let's go back and take a look at your top pick, number 4, Geometry. You talked about how the drop might look a little bit suspicious. For me as a handicapper, it's always tricky this time of year because you well know as a trainer, you start to get the babies into your barn. The 2-year-olds are in your barn and they're going to probably race within the next month or so. So you want to kind of clean house and put horses at their realistic level. When you were back claiming horses back in the day, how did you evaluate a horse like Geometry? Would this be a horse, just using him as one example, not necessarily picking on the horse, would this be a horse that you would be willing to dip in and take a claim, or would you be a little bit more cautious?
This is a horse that I would definitely, if I was claiming a lot of horses at the time and had a lot of action going, he's probably the kind of horse that I would take a look at, definitely.
He's lightly raced. He's a 4-year-old with only 8 lifetime starts.
Yeah, he's got some knocks against him, obviously. He's a horse that obviously that the connections have had to handle carefully over, just by his form. You can tell he's been handled carefully. He's lightly raced, like you said, for his age. But Jonathan is very, very good. If you look at him day in and day out, running horses all over the country and at Woodbine, he places horses in very realistic spots that they can be successful in. And I think this is probably an example of putting a horse that he wants to be successful with.
And you put a smile on my face, Jack, by saying that, because basically they don't give anything away at the racetrack, right?
Correct.
These trainers are so talented and know their horses so well. 30,000 is probably the level where he belongs.
Yes, and it's probably a situation where, and it's a big thing today. If he was to win, which he's got a great chance of winning, he will now go through that non-3 condition. So he's basically in a little bit of no man's land with a spot to run from here. So if he wins today, tough horse to place in the future.
Let's take a look at race number 2. You do have him out on race number 2. Number 1, Brams Mendelssohn, but we are going 1 mile on the main track this time. Maiden Claiming Calbred's in for a $12,500 tag. 50-cent early pick 4-time beginning in race number 2. Field of 6 after the scratch of number 5. Morning line favorite number 6, Irish Element, 9-5 on the morning line. Let's first talk about Brams Mendelssohn, your mount with Kyle Frey in the saddle. Sprint to route for trainer Brendan Galvin, who's done very, very well. What do you think about Brams Mendelssohn in the spot?
So Brams Mendelssohn is a horse that I've talked to Brendan about a lot, and he's a frustrating horse for Brendan in the fact that he says he trains as good as any horse in his barn. The afternoon results have not mirrored the morning, what he shows him in the morning. So he's been a bit of a frustrating horse for him. From his form, you can see he's very, he hasn't been super reliable. He did have a second beat in the distance the start before last, which was a big step up for him. And then there was a kind of a sneaky good race, like 4 races back, where he was split the field, beaten 3 lengths in the Calbred Maiden Allowance race. So the biggest thing about Brams Mendelssohn, according to Brendan, when I've talked to him in the morning, is to check that horse in the paddock and the post parade, because he's a high strung horse. If he's settled and looks well, he'll probably run a good race. That's his biggest downside, and he's a little bit unreliable from the standpoint of his personality. But we're obviously, he's never seen this low of a maiden claiming, but at the same time, there's several others in here that are taking the exact same drop, if not more.
I was going to say, Jack, we can see on the graphic another runner who's reached a career low is the runner you pick on top, the morning line favorite, number 6, Irish Element. Ran actually in the 16 non-winners of 2 lifetime last time out. Kind of towers over this field from a class and speed figure standpoint.
Yeah, so it was an odd placement last time. I'm not sure if that was why he would run against winners last time in a non-2, if he was filling the race for another horse or just helping the racing office out, something like that. Doug will do that on occasion, just help the racing office out a bit if they need a little help. It didn't run a bad race for a race against winners, and then his race previous for Maiden 20 was just beating the neck. So to me, he kind of, he looks pretty solid in this spot and looks like a horse would be pretty tough to beat for Maiden Calbred 12-5. I was telling you earlier, it looks like Doug might have a pretty good day. He's got several live runners in today, and I think this is one that looks like he's in a real good spot. Of the rest of the horses in the race, Craig Lewis with the 2-horse stage run with only 1 out, Maiden 50, was 4th beaten 4 lengths, sprinting. So there's a couple things to take into account. He's a lightly raced 4-year-old, only 1 start, never run long, first time long, but has the big drop in class from Maiden 50 to Maiden 12-5. Kazushi Kimura aboard. This is a horse that if he's right and he's well meant, he could easily dust the field like this.
And just one additional note on Jack's mount in race number 2, Brams Mendelssohn. According to Brad Free of the Daily Racing Form, trainer Brendan Galvin has won with his last 3 sprint to route maidens, a category that Brams Mendelssohn fits today. Let's turn the page, Jack. Look at race number 3. 2-turn theme continues. 1 mile on the main track. $10,000 claimers, non-winners of 2 races lifetime. Scratch the 2, leaves us with a field of 5. You read the morning line favorite in here for trainer Jose Valdez, number 5. Smiling Tizzy, who's 2-1 on the board. Talk to us about race 3.
Yeah, I think Smiling Tizzy found himself a really good spot here. Light field, field of 5. Ran a very good race the other day for 16 non-2. I think this, is definitely an easier spot than last time, and he was pretty willing and trying the other day. I think this is a real good spot for him. Just from a competition standpoint, there's not a whole lot in here. The horse to beat was the horse that scratched, in my opinion. Spun Not Stirred. So when he came out, it didn't hurt my feelings. So I think that today might be the day for Smiling Tizzy. He's very handy as far as where you can place him. If there's a speed duel, he can sit off of him, no problem. If nobody goes, he's very versatile that way. You can put him right up on the lead. So Kyle will have choices with him. It's not a horse that's reliant on a lot of pace in front of him. So he's a handy horse. So I think he'll be tough in here today. And I look for him to run a good race.
Jack, a question for you, and I want you to put your trainer hat back on. Smiling Tizzy last time out took the blinkers off in lifetime start number 14, and he actually wound up not only running a good race, but earned a career best Beyer speed figure of 72. How frustrating is it to kind of run a horse in blinkers for 10, 11 starts, and then magically take the blinkers off and have the horse run really the best race in his career?
Yeah, he's a horse that he's a horse that actually Kyle's ridden at all of his starts, or most of his starts, and not all of them, but most of them recently, and he's gotten on him a lot in the mornings. And so I think he made a suggestion when he got on this horse about maybe possibly taking the blinkers off. But as you'll see today, I think from what I've heard, they plan on putting those side shadow rolls on them, those
like winkers.
Like winkers, I think they call them. So I think that's what he'll run in today. So it'll be a little bit of a blinker, but at the same time, not an actual hood. And that may work out pretty good for him.
Race number 4 begins 2 popular wagers, both the $2 pick 6 as well as the $3 all turf pick 3 with a reduced 15% takeout. We're sprinting 6 furlongs in the turf course. Maiden claiming 3-year-old fillies, $50,000 is the claiming tag. Scratch the original morning line favorite, number 4, Olivia. That means number 9, Our Agenda, does draw into the body of the field. Likely post-time favorite is going to be number 3, Sugar Rain, putting the blinkers on for trainer Jeff Bondi. You ride a, believe, first-time starter in her number 4, Hot Rod Christine from the Tim McCanna barn. Give us your thoughts on race 4, Jack.
Yeah, as far as our mount, Hot Rod Christine, do not know a lot about this filly. Actually, we may have gotten on her a time or two, but I don't know a whole lot about her, so I don't know where to attack from that standpoint, hoping for the best. I think if she takes to turf, you never know. As I was kind of handicapping the race today, I didn't find this race to be the overly, the toughest maiden 50 in the world. So it's the kind of race that, if a first-time starter could, does have some ability, could jump up and run good. The horse I settled on was, again, Doug O'Neill, Jaramillo on the outside, Cosmo Friday. She just comes out of just so much better races than what the others in here have run against. She hasn't run that well in any of her starts. She's been beaten 13, 14, and 9 lengths, but the races themselves were just so much better. So this drop in class from that maiden allowance to 50 is gonna really look like a big drop, I think, and I think she'll probably react positively to that drop. So I look for her to run real well. From the second spot, Jeff Bondi's got a filly in here named Sugar Rain that's been here, there, or thereabouts. She was third last time, beaten 2 lengths. The filly that was scratched in here, Olivia, which would have been probably the heavy favorite in here, this filly finished just behind her last time. So Olivia was second and Sugar Rain was third. So she was the logical second choice for me in here. So she, I think that she'll appreciate the maiden 50, and she seems like she's getting the hang of racing. She improved a lot between start 1 and start 2, and if she takes another step forward today, I'm sure she'll be tough.
Race number 5 begins the 50-cent late pick 5. Here's the maiden claiming Calbred race I was referring to. 3-year-old fillies in for a $20,000 tag. Field of 7, you do ride number 4, She's Back for Jamie Thomas, 9-2 on the morning line favorite on the rail, taking a drop down in class. Go Tiz for trainer Isidro Tamayo, 5-2 on the morning line. Jack, before we get your thoughts on the race, I want to watch a replay that many of these runners exit, including your mount, She's Back. This race was back on February 15th, When we watch this replay, She's Back is going to be drawn on the far outside. She's going to be wearing saddlecloth number 14. I want you to pay attention to her, as well as the filly wearing saddlecloth number 10. That would be Julia Street. They're both going to be on the far outside turning for home, so they're going to be easily spottable. But let's listen to Frank Miramati describe the action back on February 15th and watch the runners wearing saddlecloths numbers 10 and 14.
And they're off. Love Lock bounces out very quickly. Go Prancelot is flashing good early speed too, and they are joined by Savannah's Big Girl moving up to take second. Dustin 2, Stars Hollow is in the mix through the opening furlong, and She's Back extreme outside, just 3 lengths off the lead. It's then a gap of 3 or 4 lengths to the next flight, headed by Willow in the Wind, who's 2 lengths in front of Tina's Princess. Real Lucky in Love is next on the outside. Big Miss is moving through down at the rail. Then comes Julia Street. Little Originaire is next. In a gap, back to Southern Riff, who trails. Lovelock, 3 furlongs out, leads the way by a length. Stars Hollow trying to close the gap, but under serious pressure in second. Then Savannah's Big Girl in third. On the far outside comes She's Back in fourth. Just in behind them, Willow in the win. They're at the top of the stretch. And Lovelock has something left. 2-length lead, 1 furlong out. Stars Hollow chasing. On the outside, Savannah's Big Girl. Down at the rail, here's Willow in the win, closing stoutly. From nowhere is Big Miss, driving finish. The new leader, Savannah's Big Girl, close to home. And Savannah's Big Girl wins it. Another for Kimura.
Jack, you finished second there with She's Back. And as we watch the gallop out, it looks like good old number 14, She's Back, wants to go 2 turns. That's her galloping out. There's our friend on the far outside in the Eclipse Thoroughbred partner colors, Julia Street, wearing saddle cloth number 10. Even watching this replay, Jack, let's face it, this is a wide open scramble from a handicapping standpoint. Who do you like in the race and why?
Yeah, I settled on the 5-horse Golly, Good Golly Dolly, only because she's been, only beaten 3 lengths in maiden allowance races.
There's that guy, Doug O'Neill, again.
Yeah, back to Doug O'Neill again. I think my filly will run well in here. Just not sure if she's good enough. This filly's just coming out of so much better races, and with the drop all the way to 20, if she'll get the 2 turns, I would say Doug's filly will be pretty tough in here.
5 and 4 in race number 5 for our seminar guest, jockey agent Jack Carava. Race number 6, Jack, begins the 50-cent late pick 4. This time we're sprinting 6.5 furlongs on the flat turf course for fillies and mares in for a $25,000 tag. Scratch the also eligible number 9 has been taken out of the race. That still leaves us a good field of 8. Number 2, Shangri-La, fresh off a victory, is the 9-5 morning line favorite. Shangri-La and a number of these exit the same race. This was back on Valentine's Day, February 14th. Take nothing away from Shangri-La. She's in peak form right now. You can see that even by her career box as well. 11 for 15 in the money. But there is one runner in this field with for the replay we're about to watch that I want you to pay attention to. It's the runner breaking from the rail. Shin Jadad for trainer Leonard Powell and Eclipse Thoroughbred partners once again. Trailed the field and then really put in an explosive late run. This replay we're about to watch was at 6 furlongs. I have a feeling the extra half furlong might help her, but you be the judge. Let's watch the replay of the 3rd race back on February 14th. Listen to Frank Miramati describe the action and watch the runner wearing saddle cloth number 1.
And they're off. Invincible Molly in the center of the course is out alertly. Here's Isa Court now quickest, and Isa Court seizes command. Ovita's Hoppy is now racing in second. Down at the rails, Shangri-La is moving right into contention. 3rd and only a length and a half off the speed. Tam's Little Angel is next. Invincible Molly in the red silks. Maximum Gold is widest of all, 4 lengths off the lead with Corporal Violet and Shin Jadai at the back of the field. Isa Court takes him into the far turn, leads by a length over Ovita's Hobby, who tries to put some pressure on in second. At the rails, Shangri-La 2.5 off the pace in 3rd. Then comes Invincible Molly. Corporal Violet on the outside is next, followed by Maximum Gold. Then it is Tam's Little Angel and Shin Jadai. They're at the top of the stretch. There's room for Shangri-La, and Shangri-La is cut loose on the inside to battle with Isa Court. Shangri-La on the inside takes the lead from Isa Court. Ovita's Hobby on the outside. Shangri-La for Mark Glatt wins it by a length and a half.
Jack, as we watch the gallop out here, here's our good friend in the Eclipse Thoroughbred colors on the gallop out. Unfortunately, they don't pay on the gallop out, but the hope, at least for handicappers like me, is the distance is a half furlong further. But I do think, and I agree with you, I do think Shangri-La is in rock solid form right now.
Yeah, it's really, at this level, especially with marriage, you don't find fillies that are in this kind of form. She just runs her race pretty much every single time, and it's just a tough mare, and you can count on her. She's very, very reliable, and so I think if you bet on Shangri-La, you're going to get your money's worth, and I look for her to run real well again today.
Fillies and mares compete once again in race number 7. These are Calbred fillies and mares, allowance optional claiming types, going 1 mile on the main track. Non-winners of one other than. Race number 7 also begins the popular $3 late pick 3 with a reduced 15% takeout. Morning line favorite number 2, Dory Miller from the Leonard Powell barn at 9-5. You ride number 4, Ryan's Girl, at morning line odds of 6-1. Dory Miller 2 for 33 lifetime, yet the morning line favorite. You skeptical, or are you a buyer on Dory Miller, Jeff?
I'm actually a buyer on Dory Miller today. I just think the circumstances are right for her today. You have the filly on the rails coming off of what looks like better turf races than dirt races, or one dirt start wasn't good. A couple fillies that look like they're probably a little bit cheaper than allowance types, and then you got Stay in Line. So I saw the race between Dory Miller and Stay in Line. They seem to be the two most obvious choices. So I went with Dory Miller. I think today might be her day.
Race number 8 begins the $5 late daily double, also with a reduced 15% tag on. We kick off that wager in race 8, sprinting 5.5 furlongs in the main track. This is a really good betting race for $10,000 claimers. Scratch the Rail, Manchild still leaves us with a good field of 9. Morning line favorite now is going to be, let's just say, probably on the bottom, number 10, Broadway Union. It's very impressive in victory last time out for trainer Jose Valdez. You ride for Blaine Wright, very talented Northern California horseman. Number 6, Winds of Freedom at a big price. What say you about race 8, Jack?
I think Wings of Freedom has actually got an excellent chance in this race. He's a horse that even when he does get beat, he doesn't get beat far. He runs his race pretty much consistently every single time. In the drop back to 10 from a starter 12.5, he should run pretty well today. So I look for him to run well at a price. I did pick Broadway Unions. I won with this horse last time with Tiago. He's coming back right at the same level. But the way he's drawn outside, I love that post for him. He's a horse that runs well on the outside, so I think he'll really enjoy having that post. So I think he'll be tough to beat today, but I'm very hopeful that Kyle's horse will run well in here as well.
We close out a solid day of racing in race number 9, offering $1 super high-five wager. We're going 2 turns, 1 mile on the turf course, maiden special weight Calbred 3-year-olds. Take out the 10. That means number 11, Positive Times, does draw into the body of the field. Adrian Escobedo is in the saddle. Also take out of the race number 6, Passion de Oro. Still leaves us with a good field of 9. You ride number 1, Dr. Filkins for Sean McCarthy, 5-1 on the Maury line. One more replay to squeeze in. This would be a replay that Dr. Filkins ran in last time. It was on February 13th. It was the 8th race. The runner I want you to pay attention to in this replay is wearing saddlecloth number 4. That would be Robin Olds, the first-time starter from the Field of Malabar. What I want you to watch is the arm movement, or lack thereof, that Armando Ayuso is able to exert on Robin Olds, particularly coming down the lane, simply because he was in tight and didn't have any room to maneuver. So let's watch the replay of Frank Miramati back on February 13th, describe the action, and watch the runner wearing saddlecloth number 4, Robin Olds.
And they're off. Dr. Filkins is out very quickly and goes straight to the front. Here's Scatalotta Ding Dong up to take a second shot. And in behind them comes Beeblebrox in third. Almost there is down on the inside, close up, taking that third position as they move into the first turn. That group is followed by Desert Hawk, who's down on the inside, just in front of John Metcalf, who is now joined on the extreme outside by Omission. About 6 lengths off the lead is a very keen Omission who didn't take that first turn too well. Robin Olds settles at the back of the field with Passion Doro. They swing on to the backstretch, and it is Dr. Filkins, Scatalotta Ding Dong in second. They're followed by Beeblebrox in third. Racing on the outside in fourth is John Metcalf, who's only about a length off the lead suddenly. A length and a half back to almost there. Then Omission and Passion Doro, leaving the 2 trailers, Desert Hawk, and Robin Olds is at the back of the field. Dr. Filkins rounds the far turn. Scatalotta Ding Dong is a neck away second, a length and a half. Beeblebrox in third. Now the favorite, John Metcalf, is losing ground with each and every stride, not being persevered with either. He is going to be last. They turn for home, and these 3 right across the course. Scatalotta Ding Dong in between horses. Dr. Filkins battling gamely. 2 lengths back to Beeblebrox in third. They're coming to the 16th pole. Scatalotta Ding Dong opens up 2 on Dr. Filkins, and it's Scatalotta Ding Dong, much the best. Scatalotta Ding Dong and Diego Herrera scoring by 2.5.
Jack, so frustrating as a handicapper, because those who backed Robin Olds at odds of 8-1 certainly wish the finish line was entering the clubhouse turn. As you can see here, he finished in front this particular afternoon. He's likely to improve second time up, but there were a lot of other runners in this replay that caught my attention. John Metcalf, disappointing, but now adds blinkers. Dr. Filkins, your horse, had the lead. A lot of different ways you can go in the nightcap. Which way you going and why?
Yeah, I went to a completely different horse, Flash of Lightning, coming out of a different spot, but he was trouble trips 2 races back and then came back with a nice race last time. If he takes even a slightly step forward, I think he'll be very tough in the spot.
Jack, thanks so much for your time and insight. Continued success with both of your riders, Kyle Frey and Tiago Pereira, not only today and this weekend, but for the remainder of 2026. You're a class act, and thanks so much for joining me.
Thanks for having me, Tom.
Thanks for watching, everybody. Hope you enjoyed it. Quick reminder, Coast to Coast Pick 5, you know about that wager. That begins Gulfstream Park, race number 9, 1:54 p.m. Pacific time, sunset 6. You hear me talk about that. $1 minimum, low takeout. Gulfstream Park, race 8, 1:23 p.m. Pacific time is the kickoff for the sunset 6. Have a great afternoon, everybody. Wishing nothing but the best of luck, and we'll do it all again tomorrow.
Ladies and gentlemen, please rise for our national anthem. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Santa Anita Park, the great race place. The track conditions are brought to you by John Deere. The track is fast, the turf is firm, the rail on the turf at 30 feet. Here are the changes. Nothing new to report in the first scratch 3, sketchy. In the second scratch 5, go trigger cut. Third, scratch 2, spun not stirred. In the fourth, scratch number 4, Olivia. Note that 9, our agenda runs and carries 1 over. Fourth starts the $2 pick 6 and the all-turf pick 3 on races 4, 6, 9 today. In the fifth event, late pick 5 wagering is offered. Blinker notes. 6th race, scratch 9, Lamborghini. In the 7th, start of the $3 late pick 3, no changes. 8th race, scratch 1, Manchild. And that's the start of the $5 late daily double. The 9th, scratch 6, Passion Doro. Scratch 10, Bibelbrox. And note that 11 positive times. The jockey is Adrian Escobedo. The 9th offers super high 5 wagering. Enjoy your day here at Santa Anita Park. They'll be at the gate for the first in 25 minutes at 1 p.m. Coast to Coast, Butter and Toast. Friday the 13th starts with Gulfstream's 9th in about an hour and 20 minutes. Low 15% takeout, retail only, great payoffs in the Coast to Coast Big Five every Friday, Saturday, and Sunday.